Today's episode has been brought to you by Schedulicity.
I have talked with 2 yoga teachers in the past month who have told me that 50% of their website traffic is coming from Pinterest. So I needed to ask Kate All of Simple Pin Media to talk with us today. Kate has grown a large company and their specialty, their niche is Pinterest. I know very little about Pinterest. I don't hang out there. What I do know is that all ages are on that platform. My 14-year-old daughter loves it, and she is never on Facebook. So if we're looking at where to post content and where generations of viewers are going to be, Pinterest is definitely something to learn about. Welcome to episode 113 of the Connected Yoga Teacher podcast. My name is Shannon Crow. I'm a mother of 3, a yoga teacher, and a trainer and consultant working for yoga teachers. And this podcast was created for you so that you can connect to information and inspiration every single week and feel supported because, as you know, sometimes it's a rough journey being a yoga teacher and a business owner. And sometimes we didn't know that we signed up to be a business owner when we signed up for yoga teacher training. I sure didn't know. All of the links with clickable timestamps are ready for you at theconnectedyogateacher.com/113. Before we meet Kate, let's hear our hot tip of the week from Schedulicity.
Hello, Connected Yoga Teachers. This is Shayna with the Schedulicity Hot Tip of the Week. You can use your Schedulicity business listing to create a bookable link in Pinterest. Start with a photo that captures the vibe of your yoga practice, and think about adding motivational text or a helpful tip. Set the destination link to your Schedulicity business listing URL. Now when people select your Pinterest post, they'll be led to book a spot in one of your classes or workshops.
Thank you so much, Team Schedulicity, for that hot tip of the week. Our guest today is Kate All. She's the owner and founder of Simple Pin Media, a Pinterest management company. She also has the Simple Pin podcast, where she helps you DIY your Pinterest marketing with simple and actionable tips. Kate's company has worked with over 500 Pinterest accounts, and as you will hear today, Kate and her team stay up to date on all things Pinterest. Kate has an amazing story, and I encourage you to go to her website and check it out. I was reading through and thinking, wow, Kate could do an entire podcast episode on her life story, and I bet she has that on her own podcast. Welcome to the Connected Yoga Teacher podcast, Kate. It's great to have you here today.
It's great to be here.
I am super excited and a little bit nervous because I do not have a Pinterest strategy, and I am not really a pinner. My daughter is. And I know it's not going out of style. And I know that it would really benefit our yoga teachers. So,
yes, I would.
Just to introduce you to our guests, tell us who you are, where you live, who you work for, and how did you get started in this?
Yeah. So I live in Portland, Oregon, and I run a company called Simple Pin Media. We're a Pinterest management agency. So what we do is we really manage our clients' Pinterest accounts and presence so that they don't have to think about it. They can focus back on their business. But I also have the podcast, the Simple Pin podcast, where I teach people who want to DIY their Pinterest marketing, how to do it in a really actionable, effective way. Because I'm not a person I don't want to waste people's time. I don't want them to chase crazy antics or myths or rumors about Pinterest marketing. I just want to give them straight, actionable advice so they can really put it into practice. Because a lot of people don't have the ability to afford outsourcing quite yet. And so that's why I have that area of teaching that we also do. So our audience is pretty diverse between people who are just starting out, people who are growing their Pinterest marketing, and people who are ready to scale it by hiring us. So I have a team of 40 women that work for me.
That's amazing.
I know. We managed for around 130 clients, which is incredible. The company is about 5 years old. So we only focus on Pinterest marketing. People will ask us, do you do Instagram? Do you do Facebook? Nope. We just strictly focus on Pinterest.
Oh, I love that. I love that you have this niche in the social media. Now, someone recently said something about Pinterest that it is not a social platform like Instagram or Facebook. Instead, it's more of a search engine. Do you
Yes.
want to explain that to us?
Yeah, that's a really absolutely. We often refer to Pinterest as a search and discovery platform. And the joke is that it's the introverts platform because there's not a lot of conversation. You really can be in your own world, dream, discover all the things you want to plan, do, and be on your own boards. And there's a great a visual that Pinterest gives out in some of their creatives when they're teaching you. And if you were to look at something like a bell curve, you would start out with Pinterest as somebody is dreaming of a really great hiking trip or they're dreaming of a really great project about 3 to 6 months before they engage on that project. A couple weeks before they actually want to take action, they might go to Google or Amazon to be able to make the final purchases. So Pinterest informs their purchases. Then when they're ready to take action, they go to the places like Google or Amazon. And then when we get to Instagram or Facebook, they tell you all about the project. It's very much real time. So we go through this whole pendulum with all these different platforms, but Pinterest is really way back at the beginning when people are dreaming of an idea.
Okay, so say if there's a yoga teacher and they want to put together a class, then maybe they are planning out all of the poses, or maybe they are planning to build a yoga studio and they're sort of gathering a board of here are the things I need to know and do.
Exactly. And if they have a student or somebody they're trying to target who wants to become interested in yoga, they would first probably write some articles that really attach to that pain point because people do read a lot of articles on Pinterest. They seek out information. And so thinking about the biggest questions that your students might have might be some of the first ways to introduce them to your company or your studio by putting really just writing articles that answer that, is yoga for me, or even starting very basic and then even top 5 poses to help with back pain or something like that. People love these kinds of things on Pinterest because they can save those ideas to maybe their fitness board or their yoga board. So you're building awareness of your company through your knowledge, through your articles that you're writing.
Okay. So when we say we have content out there, and I know a lot of our yoga teachers will have existing articles or videos, then would they create one pin based on that? Or what is sort of the
Best
workflow that you would,
practice.
yeah.
Yeah. So what you'd want to do is even if before you get to that point, you're going to start way back at your Pinterest profile. And your profile really represents who you are as a business. So you don't want it to be too personal. You can definitely have personal boards. I hide mine as referred to as secret boards, which means the public can't see them. I can pin to them whenever I want. And that really allows my public profile of Simple Pin Media to also be my personal. So I don't have to log in and log out. But my public profile is very much all about Simple Pin Media, all about Pinterest tips. So you really want to start there with, if somebody comes to your Pinterest page or profile, do they understand who you are and what you represent? Do they know right away that you're a yoga instructor? Do they know that you have an authority in this space? So that involves having boards with board names like yoga back strengthener poses or the best poses for yoga poses for beginners. These keywords on the board names are very important because the algorithm with the search, right? If people are going to search for things, they look at those board names to inform them about what the pins inside the board are about. So that being said, you want to spend some time really devoting time to setting up your profile to make sure that it absolutely represents who you are. That I wouldn't be confused if I hopped on. I would know, oh, this is a yoga instructor. They have all these resources about yoga.
What about pins for that relate to other websites? So say if we see something we really like and we pin that, is there a ratio of my pins to someone else's?
There isn't. You really just want to be thinking about how it serves your users. So you obviously don't want to have your pins pinned over and over and over again to where somebody comes onto your profile and they see 25 of the same pin. but you want to see your Pinterest boards as a curated resource for your audience. So for me, I love to share other people's Pinterest tips that I know personally, that I've collaborated with, or that I've worked with them because I trust the information that they're providing. I imagine it's the same thing within the yoga space, that there's some yoga teachers that maybe they share information that's counter to what you believe. So you want to be really careful to share things that you know maybe you haven't written about it yet, or maybe you don't do it yet, but you know it's going to be a great resource for your students or for your audience. So again, there's no ratio. It's really just all about user experience and how you want to serve them. If there's a day you don't want to pin anybody else's stuff, totally fine. You can pin all of your content. That's completely appropriate. Pinterest loves new, fresh content. That's really what they seek, because they know their platform really operates with content creators' content. If they don't have content, they don't have anything on their platform. Whereas things like Facebook and Instagram, they don't necessarily need your content. They need your status updates. So that being said, you really want to think about the type of content that you have and how you can help inform the Pinterest user about who you are and your expertise.
Okay. And when you just said about pinning daily, that's where my anxiety rose a little bit.
Okay, I'll help break it down for you. So one of the things that we've seen over the years that we've worked with Pinterest, and what Pinterest has said, is consistency is best. Now, there's not a number attached to that. You could do 3 per day. You could do 10 per day. What we really tell people is it's about how much content you have. So we work with some people who write posts 5 days a week. So that 5 days a week for 5 years, I mean, we have a lot to cycle through and a lot to get onto the different boards that we have. But if you only have a few pieces of content, one of the best ways to increase the number of content you have is by creating pinnable images. So pinnable images, the right way to do this are they're a vertical image. They're one of the only platforms out there, for social platform, for lack of a better term, that uses a vertical based image. And the reason is because it works really well on the phones and in their feeds, because the screens are longer. You scroll through and you see a longer image. They always say a 2-to-3 ratio. So this can be 600 by 900. It can be 735 by 1102, which is what Canva has in there. Or it can be 1000 by 1500. All 3 of those are 2-to-3. So the goal is just to really stay with the 2-to-3, and Pinterest will adjust your image accordingly onto the screen. So that's a really important thing first.
Yes.
And then number 2, you want to think about, what do these images tell about the story that the pinner is going to receive on the other side? So it's really easy to use just a stock photo of somebody doing yoga, but that doesn't really intrigue the pinner right away. And the pinner operates in 2 ways. They're in the main home feed, which is called their smart feed. This is a combination of things that they're interested in, promoted pins, people they follow, and Pinterest suggested pins to them. So when we look at attracting the smart feed user, they're really just killing time. So that's why we want to put some text on that image. That's, again, I'm going to keep using the back strengthening one. That's the one that keeps coming to mind. But that gives that picture of somebody doing yoga context, that it's not just about yoga, but it's about specific exercises for the back. Whereas if there was no text on the image, it would be really easy for them to go by and go, oh yeah, that's a nice yoga pose. It's moving on, right?
Right.
So that's why we say vertical image. Be very strategic in the images that you use. In fact, I recommend more lately to stray away from stock photos and try to get some of your own branded photos, because that also builds awareness for your brand. And what I found is that it's not that expensive to hire a photographer off of Craigslist or another local community photographer, maybe that's learning. Do that twice a year. Have them get maybe like 50 photos, different angles. And now you have a whole suite of photos that you can use on your Pinterest images that are you, or really represent your branding. And then use Canva or PicMonkey to put that text over the top to give the pin context.
Okay, that's amazing. And is there a rule with our text? Like, is there too much text that we could put on?
Yes, there is. In fact, I always say very clean looking text. I do love color. I think it pops out and catches the pinner's attention because when you look at the mobile app, and I highly suggest everybody who's going to go into marketing on Pinterest, spend some time using the app on your phone so you can really understand what the pinner sees. And if they're on a 5-inch, 6-inch phone, they have to be able to read it because you and I might create these images on our computer and it's quite big, right? But then when you see it on a 5-inch screen, you're like, oh, I can't read that, especially if you have older eyes like me and I'm kind of pulling my my phone away. Um, you definitely want to make it as simple as like use Arial font. I know that it's a boring font. I know that some people think it's ugly, but honestly, when you get it on an image with some color, it's easy to read. So we want to avoid any script font. Like just don't go cursive. Stay away from that. The other thing is that some people think infographics might be good, but what happens with infographics when you have so much information on a pin, there's no compelling reason to click. And so you might get engagement, but the whole goal with Pinterest marketing is to get the click through to your site because you want to help build a relationship with them. You want to build your tribe. And so if everybody's just pinning your pin because it has all the information about this, let's say you have every single yoga pose and you put a whole glossary underneath like that yoga pose, I have no reason to want to come to your site to learn more. You've just given it all to me there on the pin.
Oh, that's such a good point. Like, say, for instance, if we thought, okay, for this yoga pose, here would be the modifications. And if we offered it all in that infographic, then there's no reason to go back.
Right.
That's fascinating. I also love how you just simplified the text. Like use Arial text and because I feel like, I almost feel like I need to be a graphic designer.
Yes, I know. And I will say too, I am not the best at images. In fact, I have a creative director on my team. She's done my images for a couple of years. And I think the biggest problem when we're doing Pinterest images and we're not graphically inclined is we spend hours overthinking it. So before you know it, you could spend 2 hours on a pinnable image. Don't do that. Like really just do Arial, do a color, or maybe you have a font that works already on your website. Use that font. That's okay. It also builds some brand awareness. You can use the same colors from your website. You can use your logo on there, but I'd suggest it very small and tasteful and don't do it in the bottom right of an image because Pinterest has a visual search tool that hovers over in that right-hand corner. So you just want to move it to the middle or to the left just to avoid that. But yeah, don't spend a ton of time on them. And I know there's places where even in Canva, you can get templates in there and they have the font already preloaded and the look. Go with that in the first little bit and just in fact, the story is interesting because yesterday I was talking to somebody about jumping into these places where they're new. And she said, I'm just going to blog ugly for a while just to train myself to do it. So with this, it's like just pin ugly for a while. We all have to evolve and come to this place where we're better at what we do. Just jump in with both feet, play around and don't overthink it.
Oh, that is really, really great advice. Someone told me the other day, create like close to 10 pins for one thing. Do you have any thoughts on that?
So this is pretty recent. Pinterest has kind of updated their best practices. So you're able to create multiple images for one specific piece of content. So you can definitely do up to 10. But if you're overwhelmed by that, just start with 2 or 3. Don't go crazy above and beyond. But yeah, you can have as many images for a specific post as you want to. In fact, we do this a lot of times with our e-commerce business owners because sometimes they'll have a product listing and they aren't able to create more blog content. So we want to be able to spread out the existing content by getting as many different images as possible.
Okay. And so this might be a really technical question, but I'm used to pinning something when I see that little Pinterest thing pop up and then pinning that image to a board. So I'm used to more so from the user. But as a yoga teacher who wants to pin, say, 10 images, my guess is that those 10 images are not in that article. correct?
Correct. Yes. So, one of the best ways that we tell people is to use a scheduling tool. So, Pinterest has approved marketing partners, Buffer, CoSchedule, Tailwind. Tailwind is the one that we only exclusively use here because of its ease of use. It's a very productive time saving scheduling tool. And so, in that sense, you can upload the image to Tailwind and you can schedule from there, or you can upload it directly to Pinterest. It does not have to be with the piece of content. You don't have to write a blog post and have all 10 images in that blog post. You can maybe just have the one that you really think is going to be the best and then put all the other ones into Tailwind. So, let's walk through an example. So if you create a post today and you have the one image in the post that you absolutely love. So what I would do is pin that today to the one board that it's going to be applicable to. And then take and spread out those other 10 to the other boards they can be applicable to over the next couple of weeks, maybe separating like 24 to 48 hours in between the pin. The great part about the scheduling tool is it allows you to set that interval. And you can just go, okay, this is going to be 48 hours, all spread out, right? Into these specific boards. It doesn't take long to pick up. We do have a course, How to Master Tailwind. And so it'll get you up and running super fast. But once you do that, it cuts down on your time drastically. So get all your pins created, upload them into Tailwind, schedule them to go out over the next couple of weeks to different boards, and you're good to go. You don't have to manually keep uploading them every couple of days. So that's probably the best way that I would suggest people do that. And then go back into Tailwind to have great analytics to see, did they get any repins? Did they get any clicks? You can get a lot of data about which one of those or two of those 10 images did really well.
Okay, this is amazing. I keep hearing about Tailwind in the last few weeks, especially around Instagram as well. So that brings another question. Do we pin something and share it to Instagram and share it to Facebook, or is that bad?
No, you can definitely do that. But one of the best ways that you can do that first is by just letting your Instagram, Facebook audience know that you're on Pinterest. Start with that by saying, hey, follow me on Pinterest. Or if you need this yoga back exercises library of resources, here's my Pinterest board that's all about yoga back exercises. So you're kind of introducing them to Pinterest. And that way you'll want to do is when you mark it on Instagram or Facebook, you can leave. If you have the swipe up feature, you can talk about your new post. And then when you get to the swipe up, after you've sent them to your post, the next one can be swipe up to pin this for later. And that's the Pinterest link. Because this audience engagement is also really important on Pinterest. The more we can get them sharing your stuff, the more legitimate your stuff is seen in the eyes of Pinterest. Like, oh, this is coming from multiple sources and people love sharing this. And now we're going to share this to more people as well. Their audience sees it. It's very much a snowball, which is why we say that Pinterest it's a slow burn. Like it takes a little while to gain speed. So I just want people to set their expectations that if you're new to Pinterest and you really want to get exposure for your yoga business, it's going to take you 6 to 9 months to really see good results. But then once the snowball gets going, it takes off for years. I have one specific post that brings me almost all of my traffic from Pinterest. And that's been going strong for 3 years. It's been number one in my Google Analytics. Probably brings me 1,000 sessions a month just on people clicking this and saving it to their boards. And so we want to remember that these things that we're scheduling every day, we might not see a lot of fruit of it in the beginning, but as you go along, you'll start to see more and more activity, which is where the sweetness of Pinterest comes in.
Right. At the very beginning, you said to clean off our profile, and I know exactly what you mean because I went and looked at mine before our call today, and it was like my daughter's birthday party and different things that I had pinned. And I thought, yeah, this would say nothing about me as a yoga teacher and what I offer and what I do now. So if we sort of clean that up, and then is there anything else that you can think of for the beginner who wants to use Pinterest to grow their yoga business?
I think one of the biggest things we see with people jumping into Pinterest is mindset. What I just said about the 6 to 9 months and really seeing it as a long tail marketing tool, you cannot apply the logic of Facebook or Instagram to Pinterest. You will completely burn out. So if you get your mindset around the fact that you are just really educating, informing, and building awareness for your business. You want to be very, very closely aligned with what you're going to talk about. You want to create content for them. You want to create resources. If you can just wrap your mind around like it's going to be slow, that's what we see is where people find the greatest success. People who go into it in the first month and they're like, it's not working. I pinned a couple things. I'm done. Those people are going to give up real fast because what we've been trained on Instagram and Facebook are these instant hits of engagement. But what you forget is that an Instagram like doesn't translate to anything. Facebook like, it doesn't translate to much of anything. And a lot of Instagram users, to move them off the platform is very tough. I'm an Instagram user. I love it. I'm not a marketer over there, but I can tell you that for me to go visit a website of some of the people I follow, it's going to take me a lot because the ecosystem makes it so easy to stay within the platform. Whereas when you move over to Pinterest, their user knows they have to move off the platform to get more information. So you can't look at the lack of engagement. And this is where I'll kind of address like what metrics are important. Followers are not important on Pinterest because people don't go there to follow an influencer. They go there to inform what they want their life to be. And so it doesn't really matter how many followers you have. You want your followers to definitely be qualified people. You want them to be people who are interested in yoga. You want all of that. But don't strive for that. Strive for the amount of traffic coming to your website. Strive for getting more exposure, telling your audience that you're on Pinterest or having them pin your stuff. There's also this little elusive monthly views number. That number is really kind of deceptive. So don't pay too much attention to it. Some people freak out if it increases or decreases. It really is it's on a 30-day sliding scale. It's just really impressions, saves, clicks, visits to your profile. It's very much this all-inclusive number. And we don't see it always directly correlating to traffic. So that's why I tell people if you're going to evaluate how you're doing on Pinterest and really keep up this long game, go to Google Analytics, go to Tailwind, and then look at Pinterest. There's a lot of great information you can get with all three of those, but definitely don't get too caught up in followers. Don't get too caught up in that monthly view number because the people we see in our Facebook group, and we have a giant Facebook group of Pinterest marketers, they always freak out about that number. And I tell them, do not worry about it. It does not matter at all.
Oh, that's so good. So we would then check how many people are coming from Pinterest to our website. We would look at our Google Analytics for that then.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And one other question about websites and Pinterest.
Yes.
Would we create our graphics for, say, our blog post or whatever content we're creating? We usually then will have some kind of a graphic on the website for it. Mostly I'm thinking of articles. Mm-hmm. Would we create that one thing with Pinterest in mind? That one art?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what I do is I know that I am about 50-50 with social. So most is Facebook. That's really driven from my Facebook group. I know a lot of people, their businesses, they can drive traffic from their groups, not so much their page. Nobody gets any interaction on a page anymore.
Yeah.
And then the other 50 is Pinterest. So I want to have both a pinnable image and a Facebook image. And so I have my pinnable image probably in the top 1/3. I like it there because it seems like a very good placement. Some people prefer it towards the bottom. Either is totally fine. It's all about preference. And then I put my Facebook image towards the bottom. So then when I have on your website, a really important piece is share buttons. Social share buttons for Facebook and Pinterest specifically, because it makes it easy to share. A lot of people assume because they're on their computer, there's the little hover over button in Google Chrome. It's a little red save button. That is only for you as a user when you're using Chrome. If your people are on their phone or they're using Safari, they don't see that. So you have to choose share buttons that specifically fit the website platform that you're using. I use WordPress. And so I use Simple Social Press, which is actually free. And then I use another one, which is called Tasty Pins, which is, I think, $29 a year. That allows me to designate also the pinnable image that I want people to be pulled up when they hit the pin it button. So what I
Oh,
like
right.
about that is then it's the proper image for the proper platform. People aren't sharing the Facebook image to Pinterest. And you can disable pinning on the Facebook image so that when they do hit the pin it button, the only one that pops up is the Pinterest image. So
Right.
for
Oh, this is
website, yeah, for website optimization, and I'm doing a podcast actually on Squarespace and Pinterest coming up on what's best for that. I don't know a lot about that, but whatever one you use, if you sell products, Shopify, any of those, you want to just make sure that your share buttons are at the top and they're at the bottom, because if users, as users, we're kind of lazy, right? Like we don't want to like search out things.
yeah.
So make it stupid easy. Like it's so easy to share your stuff.
Okay. So it sounds like if we are wanting to dig in more and market with Pinterest and do it more DIY, we'll go and listen to your podcast for sure.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
what is your podcast? Tell us, and we'll definitely link to it in the show notes as well.
It's the Simple Pin podcast. And we really, we have, I think, 130, 140 episodes on Pinterest. And we do try to keep all very clean, specific to Pinterest. And for those who are starting to, if you go to simplepinmedia.com/start, we also walk you through the process of getting all the elements set up and tell you which podcasts to listen to.
Okay. Oh, that's so good. And then how do we know when we get to the point of, okay, I just need someone else to take this over, or I just want to, how do we know when we're there?
Yeah. So if you want somebody else to take it over, I always suggest one of the things you think about before you hire out is one, is this person that you're hiring pretty knowledgeable in Pinterest? Is it something that you feel like you can adequately not have to micromanage, because you don't want to do that? And number two, do you feel like you can adequately explain your brand? Because what people need to know as they're managing for you is how to be you, how to pin things that align with your philosophy, stuff like that. And then budget, like, what's your budget for outsourcing this? What's your budget for marketing? And what we want to really see it as, like any other social platform. These people operate on social platforms all the time. That's how we get exposure. So you want to see it as not just hiring somebody to do it for you, but like this is your advertising. So how much do you have in your budget to put towards advertising that makes sense for your revenue goals?
Right. Okay. Very helpful. Do you have an idea? Well, two-part question to this. One, is it easier for someone like you or your team members to take over the Pinterest job if there already are existing pins and you can kind of see the way they're speaking there? Or do you have some sort of intake that you do with someone? How does that work?
Yeah, we have full intake. So we've worked with all types. There's people who come to us and say, I don't even have a Pinterest page. I don't even want to do it. So just build it. So we do a full build out. And then if they want to do management, we transition them to our onboarding system. And then we go into getting branding. What are their goals? What's their previous experience with Pinterest? And those people who already have established their systems, it just depends on how much, as business owners, we don't want to give up control, right? So it really just is, how do we coax them into a place that makes them feel honored and makes them feel like we understand their brand? Because for us with just Pinterest, one of the best parts is that we know it like the back of our hands. We're weekly educated on it. We take every course. We are saturated in it to like the fullest. Like we can't, and that's our job, is we never ever want to be stagnant or stale. And my job as, the CEO of my company is to make sure my team is informed every last minute change, every detail. And so we want to help those people who feel like they do know it, that we've got it. But we also understand there's an element like this is sometimes people, it's their baby, like they love it. So we just have to take them through a process of building trust. And we also understand that too, and building confidence that we can actually take this off their plate. Because that's the sweet spot, is that when you're spending 4 to 5 hours on Pinterest a week and you want to devote 4 to 5 hours to creating content, that's actually a better use of your time. It's going to deliver a higher ROI, because you're actually building your library that you can use over and over and over and everywhere. Whereas if you hired out Pinterest, again, you get those 4 to 5 hours back and you don't have to think about it. So that's, if nobody has a strategy, right, then we go into that 6 to 9 month thing that I was talking about, where we're building up new, we're building up fresh, and we're helping to understand how Pinterest is going to see this particular account and see this website. So the two angles are very different, but both equally as important. You just kind of put on a different mind frame when you get into beginner/established account.
Right. Do you have a set price? Like, here's what you'd need if you have nothing for Pinterest and you want us to build it, or here's what you'd need if you want us to take over and maintain it?
Yeah, we do. So our builds start at 1,500. It's pretty extensive build out of 10 boards, 10 pins, really going into detail with you on your branding, getting what people, really need established. And then from there, our lowest monthly management right now is 600 a month. And then it goes up from there depending on the needs. We do have image creation services. So if people just need images created, we do have that. And then if you just need an image consultation, my creative director, who's fantastic at images, she'll help consult on what's best. So we do try to provide a variety of resources at different price points, because we know people are entering into their Pinterest journey at such different places that right now they might only be able to afford like a consult with me, which is $497 for an hour. But it's people come away with notes and notes and notes and notes because they're very much like a do-it-yourselfer. They're like, I don't have money to hire out, or I don't want to hire out, but I know I can be super efficient with my own Pinterest marketing. I just need you to tell me how to do it right. That's the same way with both the image consult and the consult with me. So we don't have a ton of services. We want to keep them super simple and very tightened up as far as what people need, but we feel like we're targeted in just the right things that the people need and where they're at in their journey.
Oh, this is good. I think it would definitely be worth it. When I said to my 14-year-old daughter, "You're on Pinterest, you could tell me." She just looked at me like, "What's wrong with you?"
I know my 13-year-old is on Pinterest too all the time. In fact, I caught her the other day, like making comments on my account as me. And I was like, oh my gosh, no. And it was all Harry Potter. I was like, we need to go through and delete those.
Oh, I love it. But what I also am really fascinated with Pinterest is us talking about our teenagers still being on there, because that is not happening on Facebook. My teenagers are like, oh, only old people are on Facebook. So
yeah. And what's interesting and my daughter's not on Instagram yet. Like, we're kind of keeping that door closed as long as we possibly can.
Mhm.
But what I love about Pinterest is she uses it so creatively. She loves art. So she uses it for drawing ideas. She uses it for, recipes for me. She's like, oh, can I make you this? Like, we had done keto for a while. So she's like looking up keto desserts because she wants to be able to still participate in baking with me. And I love that like a lot of their friends still use Pinterest, and a lot of millennials use Pinterest. And my mom uses it. Like, there's so many age brackets that it spans. And the talk right now is that Pinterest will go public actually in the spring. So I anticipate that will bring another bump of users as well. And it's whole slew of whatever goes along with going public. But I think it's so unique and so great in its use of creators' content that there's really nothing else like it. And I love it personally. Like, in redoing our kitchen, I'm pinning things like crazy and what I like and what I don't like. And there's so many different ways. And I think with my daughter, and I'm sure with your daughter too, you've seen this, there's so many things that they can find that people are pinning on Pinterest. I mean, even funny cat videos. You would think of YouTube for that, but she was searching them all yesterday because we just got kitties. And, she's searching on Pinterest for that. She's not searching on Google. And I do love watching that user experience. And if your yoga teachers who are listening, ask your family and friends how they use Pinterest. Because if you're not familiar with it, if you don't like it, that's going to inform your perspective of the person that you're targeting. Like, that's really the best way for you to understand how to get into their world. And if you just see Pinterest as a marketer all the time, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss the beauty of the ecosystem and how it works.
Oh, that is so good. I love how you said, just follow along, check out the platform, do it from your phone. Yeah. Oh, this is really good. Thank you so much for all of this. Is there anything else that you just think, if people understood this piece about Pinterest, or there's this new thing that you've just discovered, anything else you want to leave us with today?
I I just think there's so many fun things to play around with that a lot of people don't know when it comes to Pinterest. Video is new. I have a whole tutorial on my site about that for uploading video, the very short form, but this is pretty new within the last year. And so if you have video, very quick, things about that, try exploring that. That's new. There's lots of search features on Pinterest with both the visual search. You can also take a picture of things. If you're at a store and you want this product, you can take a picture of it on Pinterest, and Pinterest will search the platform to find more of those images. And so I think there's just I would say just play around with it. Just enjoy it. See what you can do. There's also for local businesses, I haven't used it a ton, but they have things on there called pin codes that if people are at your studio, they can scan this little pin code and then they can end up finding more of your content too right away. So there's so much. In fact, I need to do a podcast about pin codes too, because I saw it just recently in like a Real Simple magazine and they used it very creatively. So just don't be afraid of it. Like even though you are so used to Instagram or you're just used to that platform, used to how it works, diversify. And the beauty of Pinterest is that it drives traffic, and traffic is what makes you money. Like a heart like on Instagram doesn't make you any money.
Yeah, it's so true. All right. Well, this has been fascinating, and it's actually motivated me a little bit. So I might just put the app on my phone. That would be the first step for me. So we'll start
Step
there.
1 by the end of the day.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kate.
You're welcome.
There you have it, connected yoga teachers. Thank you so much again, Kate. I felt truly inspired. And after we talked, I actually went in and created a Pinterest business account. So I'm hoping that by doing that, I can track some data and schedule out some posts with the free version of Tailwind. I worked at doing that. So you definitely inspired me. I'm sure you have inspired our listeners. It was all really easy to do and set up. I'm considering a Pinterest content strategy now, thanks to all of this information today. I don't have it in place yet. If you have a Pinterest strategy, I would love to hear from you, connected yoga teachers. What did you learn today? What do you plan to try in your own business? Tell us in the show notes. You can find the show notes at theconnectedyogateacher.com/113. Also, if you have specific tips and tricks that you use with Pinterest, let's keep this conversation going in the show notes. If you are listening to this episode in real time, happy Earth Day. And also, here in Canada, it's Easter weekend. We have Good Friday, and then today is Easter Monday. So that makes it a 4-day weekend for us here. I'm recording this ahead of time. I always work a couple of weeks ahead, but I'm recording it way ahead because my family and I are just home from our trip to Bermuda. So I needed to get some episodes ready and to my whole team to prepare for this trip. So I just have returned from sharing Mama Nurture, my 85-hour prenatal yoga teacher training, and I'm getting ready to launch the Meaford, Ontario training this weekend. So I am guessing that it is full and we are running and there are no other spaces left. But if you have questions about that, you can go to mamanurture.ca and find out more. It's MAMA nurture.ca. The next in-person training that I will be doing will be in Meaford, Ontario, November 2nd and 3rd. It's a yoga for pelvic health teacher training. And if you're looking for any of the events and trainings, online trainings, in-person trainings, go to theconnectedyogateacher.com and look under training and events. And the last thing I want to tell you about today is really special. Coming up very soon is a chance to be in a group program with myself and Amanda McKinney, who is a marketing coach for yoga teachers. So to find out more about that, look for the Work with Shannon on theconnectedyogateacher.com, and all of the information is there. Thank you to our entire team, Samantha, Suzanne, Crunch, and Cindy, for making so much possible, including today's episode. And thank you, dear listener, for spending some time together. I look forward to sending these podcasts out to you. I know what it's like to feel stuck in your business, to feel like you're doing this on your own. And It means a lot to me that you take the time to tune in each and every week. Huge shout out to Young Yoga Masters from Canada for leaving a review on iTunes that says, "Thanks, Shannon. You look at all the wonderful aspects of teaching yoga and have so many relevant guests. I've listened to episodes that have enhanced my yoga teaching skills, business, marketing, and personal goals too. If you're a yoga teacher or thinking of teaching, I highly recommend the Connected Yoga Teacher podcast." Thank you so much for leaving this review. That is exactly why I wanted to do this podcast, so that you could, work on your yoga business and look at your personal goals and hear from really amazing guests like today's Kate All. If you want me to read your review, go to iTunes, leave us a review there, or go to our Facebook page. I try and read them all at some point on the podcast. Okay, Connected Yoga Teachers, it's time for me to sign off. What will you be doing this week to stay connected to yourself, to your yoga practice, and to your community, so that you can share the yoga that lights you up?